Hi friends, how are you? Welcome to my YouTube channel D&D Pathshala. In this video, we will discuss regarding the copper heavy metal poisoning. So let's get started. In this video, we will be discussing regarding the basic information of the copper metal and its physical appearance, uses or applications, exposure chances, toxicokinetics, and the pathogenicity or the mode or the mechanism of action. And in the next video, we will see regarding the clinical features or the symptoms of the copper metal poisoning and its diagnostic criteria and the treatment. So let's get started with our video. Now coming to the basic information of the copper metal, its Latin name is cuprum and its symbol is Cu, its atomic number is 29. And coming to its history, firstly it was used in coins and ornaments, and around 5500 BC, the copper tools helped the civilization to come from Stone Age. And it is a solid and odorless reddish brown or golden red in color. So this is the basic information of the copper metal. Now coming here, the daily intake will be varied according to the age, pregnancy and the lactation. Now coming here, in the normal daily intake, for adults, it should be between 0.9 to 2.2 mg. And for children, it should be between 0.6 to 0.8 mg. And when coming to its essentiality, it is one of the third most abundant, means required essential trace element in the body. And their salts, means the copper salts will be producing toxicity, not the crude metal. And they are resistant to corrosion and they can be easily stretched and they can be easily shaped also. The copper uses they can be used as fungicide, and they are also used in the water purification, leather tanning, and also in the preservation of the wood pulp. And these are also used in many pharmaceutical preparations and IUDs, that is intrauterine devices, that is the contraceptive devices, and etc. Now coming to its physical appearance, it is a lustrous. Lustrous means shining. Ductile. Ductile means it can be stretched into a thin wire. And malleable. Malleable means it can be hammered or it can be pressed into a shape without breaking or without cracking. So these are the properties, and it is a odorless solid. And when coming to the other features, it's an important catalyst for heme synthesis and also for the iron absorption. Now coming here, the metallic copper by its nature will be having a little or sometimes no toxicity also. The soluble salts, as I have said in the previous slide, the soluble salts like copper sulfate are strong irritants to the skin and to the mucous membranes. So these are some of the copper items like glass bottles and glasses, copper jars, copper vessels. So glass bottles means these are with the help of both copper glass and with the copper bottle, and copper wires, copper plates, copper coins, copper wires. So these are a collection of the copper objects. Now coming to its uses or applications. So coming here, the elemental copper. So here when coming to the elemental copper, it will be having a very excellent electrical conductivity, corrosion resistance, malleability, ductility, and which can be made very useful as an industrial metal also. So the copper is having wide applications regarding the high thermal and high electrical conductivity are also needed. So this copper will be used in such type of applications. And coming here, the copper can be also used to form important type of alloys like bronze. So copper is alloyed with as much as 10% of tin. So such type of alloy is bronze. And coming here, another type of alloy like brass. So copper is alloyed mainly with zinc. So copper combination or combined with zinc, it will be formed to brass. When copper is combined with the tin, that is 10% tin, it will be formed into bronze. So these are the important alloys. And when coming here, the copper is also made into corrosion resistant plumbing pipes. So these corrosion resistant plumbing pipes are very useful for heating and also for roofing materials in the building constructions. So in industrial purposes and also in the construction purposes, the copper is very useful. Now coming to the copper compounds. copper compounds like copper oxide and cupric oxide. So copper in the form of Latin name cupric or black copper oxide, or cupric oxide means CuO, and if we say it as cuprous means it is Cu2O. So cuprous is also known as red copper oxide and cupric is also known as black copper oxide. So copper oxide is also used as a catalyst and also a pigment. So for the manufacturing or for as used as a pigment, the ceramic, glass, enamel and porcelain, and also these are used in welding and also in the manufacture of rayon, and it is also found in mostly in the batteries and also in the electrodes. And coming to the copper compound copper acetate is mostly used as a paint pigment, insecticide and fungicide. And coming to the copper carbonate are also used as insecticides, fungicides and also used in the pyrotechnics and in the brass coloring. So this brass coloring means the copper alloyed with the zinc. So it is a alloy that which is formed into brass. So these are the uses of copper carbonate. And coming to the copper chloride, so cupric means CuCl2, cuprous means CuCl. So this copper chloride is used as a disinfectant, means it is used for the preservation of the wood pulp and also in the photography. So these are the uses of copper chloride. When coming to the copper nitrate, so that is cupric nitrate, the formula is CuN2O6. So this is the copper nitrate. It will be sharing so many uses like the similar uses of copper chloride, and these copper nitrate is also used in the pharmaceutical preparations and also in the paints, varnishes and enamels. And coming here to the copper cyanide, that is the cuprous cyanide CuCN, its most use means it is the its chief use is used in the electroplating of copper on iron. So it is the main use. Its main use is the electroplating of copper. Now coming to the copper sulfate or sulfide, which can also be said as cupric sulfate. The cupric sulfate is CuS and the cuprous sulfide means it is Cu2S. So the copper or cupric sulfate or sulfide, so this is used as fungicide, molicide and wood preservative and also for the water treatment and as a bactericide and also as an algicide in leather tanning. So these are used mostly. And when coming to the other type of uses like bactericide, algicide and leather tanning, so these are the other uses of copper sulfate. So these are some of the toxic salts and the copper. So the toxic salts like copper acetoarsenite, which can be also known by the name Paris green, and copper arsenite means this can be also known by Scheele's green. Copper carbonate with the chalk means it is also in the native form and with chalk form, and copper subacetate, copper sulfate. So the common names of the copper carbonate are mountain green, Brunswick green, and copper subacetate means verdigris. Copper sulfate is blue vitriol. So these are some of the toxic salts of the copper that which may cause the copper metal poisoning. So this is the blue vitriol type of salt, that is here we can see this is the copper sulfate, means it can be also said as blue vitriol. And these are the mountain green type of, means mountain green means here we have already seen in the flow chart, that is copper carbonate. So copper carbonate is in the form of mountain green. So this is the copper sulfate and this is the copper carbonate. Now what is the fatal dose of a copper poisoning? So what is the fatal dose of a copper poisoning means about 10 to 20 grams of copper sulfate is actually considered as a fatal dose. So fatal dose means the dose or the amount that which may lead to the death. So about 10 to 20 grams of copper sulfate is considered as the fatal dose. Now coming to the exposure chances and its symptoms. So the principal route of exposure of this copper poisoning will be either through the inhalation of the copper fumes or copper dust, and ingestion of this copper metal by accidentally through food or through drinking of the water, and by the skin exposure. So these are some of the exposure chances. And symptoms will be like mostly the cramps or spasms of the muscles or spasms of the legs, acne, hair loss, metallic taste and headaches. So these are some of the symptoms. Now coming to the toxicokinetics. So here The safe amount of daily intake, as I have said in the previous slide, it is about 2 to 3 mg per day. And when coming to the actual requirement, it is only 0.8 mg per day. And it is required for the functioning of the enzymes like catalase, peroxidase. And coming here, already the total body copper content is 150 mg. So that the systemic bioavailability of the edible copper will be 30%, means 5 mg per day. And maximum absorption. Now coming to the pharmacokinetics or the toxicokinetics. So pharmacokinetics means it will be leading to a drug. But here toxicokinetics we are discussing means because of the toxins, how it will be reacting its ADME parameters. That is the difference between toxicokinetics and pharmacokinetics. Now coming here, the maximum absorption will be mostly occurred in the stomach and also in the GIT mucosa. And its metallic or acid type of salt, it will be get absorbed from the skin. And normally the copper will be present in the serum in two different forms. So 7% of the total serum of the copper is bound or it will be bound to the albumin. And remaining 93% it is bound to the copper's enzyme, that is the ceruloplasmin. And here this is the binding nature, and coming to here it is transported to the liver, that which is bonded to the ceruloplasmin. And half-life of a copper in a healthy individual, it is actually for 26 days. Means nearly 1 month. If large amounts of copper is suddenly released from the liver, it will be taken up by the erythrocytes, that is RBCs, and hemolytic crisis will occur. So a large number of RBCs will be getting destroyed within a short period of time. So that is the hemolytic crisis. And coming here, about 10 to 20 mg of copper sulfate, as I have said in the previous slide, and 15 grams of copper subacetate, it is known as the fatal dose. And coming here, the fatal period is 1 to 2 days. And the other type of points, like normally the urine will be containing only traces of copper, like 5 to 25 microgram per day. And also for about 0.1 to 1.3 nanograms of copper, it is excreted through the bile daily. So these are the excretion rates, and it is also lost in the feces. Now coming to the pathogenicity of copper poisoning. So we will be discussing this copper poisoning mechanisms in the nervous system and also in the blood and in the other type of forms like liver. So these are the three mechanisms. Now we will be discussing them in brief. Now coming to the copper in the nervous system. So actually because of stress, our sympathetic nervous system will be stimulated. So this stress will stimulate, and because of the stimulation, it will release adrenaline, cortisol and aldosterone secretion. As all of you know, cortisol is one of the stress hormone. This aldosterone will be actually working by retaining the sodium and the copper. So by retaining sodium and copper, and it will increase the elimination of zinc and magnesium. So this is the aldosterone function. And when coming to the adrenal gland, here the adrenal gland will be constantly stimulated. Means if the adrenal gland is constantly stimulated by the stress, the body will be retaining. Means it will left or it will remain the copper in with itself, and it will eliminate zinc. So by this elimination of zinc, actually this zinc is very necessary. For what process or for which purpose? Means for the removal of all the toxic heavy metals including copper. So if this zinc is also necessary for the production of the neurotransmitters in brain. If this zinc is only excreted, then the copper will be accumulated. And if the brain starts to become saturated, means when the brain starts to become saturated or become saturated with the copper, because of the lack of necessary neurotransmitters, these neurotransmitters are actually required to calm the brain. So because of the lack of these neurotransmitters, the mind will become agitated, and because of this agitation, it will be prone and it will be causing severe mood swings. So this is the nervous system mechanism in the copper in the nervous system. And coming to the copper in the blood. Now coming here, the copper, I have said in the previous slides, like it will be binding to the special type of proteins like ceruloplasmin, and another type of protein is metallothionein. So this copper should be bound to the special binding proteins in order to get into the cells. So to get into the cells, these are the two special binding proteins. So by binding to these proteins, it will enter into the cell. In the cell, it can be used by the mitochondria. Means this copper can be used by mitochondria to make ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, in the Krebs cycle. And these proteins are actually made up in the liver upon receiving a signal from the adrenal glands to produce these proteins. So the head will be adrenal gland. Adrenal gland will send the signals to the liver. Then this liver will produce these both proteins, that is ceruloplasmin and metallothionein. And by receiving these proteins, the copper will bind. And here it will enter into the cell, after cell, mitochondria to ATP production, and in this Krebs cycle. So this is the normal process. But if there is any kind of dysfunction in the liver or either in the adrenal glands, then these two proteins, means if there is any dysfunction or differentiation with either of the liver or adrenal glands than these two proteins, so then these two proteins will be lacking and free and unbound copper will be getting accumulated. So it will not bind to these proteins and it will accumulate in the blood. So here these are the two proteins. Now coming here, if the excess copper is in the blood, it will cause weakening of the erythrocyte membrane, that is the RBC membrane. Because of the weakening of this RBC membrane, it will increase to the fragility that will lead to the hemolysis. Hemolysis means that RBC destruction will also occur by the hemolytic crisis. Now because of here, the oxidation of the hemoglobin will also occur by copper. So by the copper, if the hemoglobin is oxidized, it will lead to methemoglobin. So this methemoglobin can't carry oxygen. So because of the hemoglobin, this hemoglobin can carry oxygen, but because of methemoglobin, it can't carry oxygen. So because of this oxygen, this may aggravate the hemolytic crisis. That is the destruction of RBCs within short period of time. So these are the mechanisms in copper of the nervous system and copper of the blood. That is, of the nervous system and of the blood means the copper mechanism of the toxicity in nervous system and copper mechanism of toxicity of the blood, of in the blood or of the blood. So these are the mechanisms. Now coming to the copper mechanism in liver, because of the excess copper, it will store in lysosomes. These lysosomes are also called as the suicidal bags of the cell. And because of their storage, it will release. And because of their release, it will occur into hemolysis and hepatocellular necrosis. Hemolysis will be leading to hemoglobinuria, hemoglobin clast. Hemoglobin clast means the over death of the hemoglobin cells will occur. Hemoglobinuria means through the urine also the hemoglobin may pass out. Means hematuria condition may also develop. And hepatocellular necrosis means the liver cells will get died. Necrosis means cell death. So this is the mechanism of the copper in liver. And because of the accumulation of this copper, it will be leading to the liver damage, which may lead to the cellular degeneration or the necrosis. So these are the mechanisms in the liver, and in the necrotization will be occurred in the liver. And in the nervous system, because of the stress accumulation and because of this copper, the zinc will be eliminated. So that is the mechanism in nervous system. And in the blood, because of the not binding to the ceruloplasmin and metallothionein, it will be released more, and because of this excess copper, it will be leading and weakening the erythrocyte membrane. So these are the mechanisms of these three methods or three processes, that is nervous system and blood and also in the liver. So that's it for this video, and in the next video we will see regarding the clinical features or the clinical symptoms of this copper metal poisoning, means which type of symptoms can be seen in the copper heavy metal poisoning, and the diagnostic criteria, how we can find out, and how to treat this copper heavy metal poisoning. So that's it for this video. If you like my video, then like, share, subscribe, and please comment to my videos in the comment section below, and please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any doubts regarding the previous video or this video, please comment, and please subscribe to my channel, and thank you.